In this chapter, you'll get some more hands-on experience with your new Apple III. First, you'll learn about configuring your system for different devices. Then you'll find out how to format and copy a disk. This will come in quite handy in the future when you want to protect work you may have spent hours and hours preparing. You'll format and copy disks frequently as you work with your computer, so they are important techniques to learn. There is a disk that came with your Apple III called System Utilities. Find it now and have it ready. The System Utilities disk is very important. It allows you to do three kinds of operations on your computer. It allows operations on devices, operations on files, and permits you to configure your system so it knows exactly what devices you are using and where those devices are located. Operations on devices include preparing a blank disk for data and copying the contents of an entire disk onto another. Operations on files include deleting files and renaming files. Configuring your system essentially customizes your computer system to your own particular needs based on the kinds of devices you are using with it. Earlier we discussed boot disks, and you learned that every boot disk must contain certain information unique to your system. The boot disk that you will use on your system must have information about all of the devices connected to it. The way in which boot disks get that information about your particular system is determined from the data put into the system configuration program. Most Apple dealers will configure your system for you when you purchase it. We won't cover the system configuration program in this video presentation because the possible combinations of printers, disk drives, and other devices is just too great. If your system hasn't been configured for you, you will have to use the information in your Apple III Owner's Guide and the Standard Device Driver's Manual that came with your system, or ask your dealer for help. Apple III systems are shipped from the factory configured for a maximum of 2 disk drives and a Cum Sprint 5 printer. If you do have a different printer or modem or other devices, there is no easy way to tell whether you are configured for those devices or not. About the best you can do is to try to use one of these devices later as part of an applications program. For example, if you are running Apple Writer 3 and have a Diablo 630 printer and try to print a letter you may have composed, the printer will operate correctly if your dealer has configured the system for you. If he hasn't, you will get an error message like this if the system configuration program has not been set up for your particular make and model of printer. If your dealer has configured your system for you, or you have done it successfully yourself, you are ready to prepare a new blank disk for data right now. This preparation is called formatting. Formatting is a special procedure that must be done to every disk before any files can be written onto it. Essentially, formatting is the process of laying down magnetic tracks on the disks so that data can be recorded onto those tracks. It is sort of like building bookshelves in a room before any books can be placed on those shelves. Some computer systems call formatting initializing. Initializing and formatting are the same thing. When you format a disk, you are preparing it for future files. You'll be running across the word volume frequently as you begin to work with your Apple III's disk system. Basically, a volume is a mass storage medium. The most common mass storage medium used with Apple III's is a floppy disk. However, volume can also mean the hard disk profile system available for Apple III's. In this chapter, we'll be using volume as it refers to floppy disks. Before you can actually copy one volume onto another, the destination volume must be properly formatted. Your System Utilities disk has a program that lets you format a disk. Insert your System Utilities master disk into the drive on the main chassis of your Apple III. This drive is always referred to as Drive 1. Now turn the main power switch on the back of your Apple off and then turn it on again. After about 30 seconds, the System Utilities program will be loaded into memory. The first thing that will come up on your screen will look like this. After a few moments, the following menu will be displayed. Notice that, in addition to the menu in the center of the screen, there is some other information shown. There is a title block in the upper left-hand corner that tells you what disk and what menu you are on. On the upper right is a line that tells you what version of SOS this boot disk is. Programmers are constantly improving their programs and discovering bugs in them. When they come up with an improved version of a program, they usually number it with a higher number. Don't be surprised to find a version higher than 1.1. On the lower left side of the display is a prompt message that says press, and if you follow the line to the right, you'll see the Open Apple question mark symbol. This is a handy prompt line available on many Apple III menus that will give you help if you need it. To use the help prompt, simply hold down the Open Apple key. Then hold down either Shift key and press the question mark key. Go ahead and try it now. Below the prompt line is a comment that says, "Please select a command." You'll notice that the phrase File Handling Commands is repeated from the menu above in the middle of your screen. Go ahead and press the vertical down arrow key. Notice that the block of inverse characters moves to another line with each press of the arrow key. Also notice that there is a letter to the left of each line on the menu. You can select any of the lines on the menu in one of two ways. The first is by moving the inverse video block to the line you wish to select and pressing the return key. The second is by pressing a letter key that corresponds with the letter on the left-hand side of the line you wish to select. Select the device handling commands by pressing the D key. The device handling commands menu will look like this when it comes up. Remember, a volume is any form of mass storage medium. In this case, the disk itself. Notice that device handling commands contain 6 different programs. You can copy one volume to another, rename a volume, format a volume, verify a volume, list devices configured, and set the time and date. Select the Format a Volume program by using the up or down arrow key to move the inverse video block to the Format a Volume line and press Return. At the lower left-hand corner of your screen, you should now see this display. The computer is asking you which device you're going to use to format the new volume. We're going to show you how to format a disk and copy a disk using 2 drives in this video program. It is possible to use only one drive. However, since most users have 2 drives, we will show you the more common method. If you do have only one drive, you should watch this section and the following one on disk copying. The procedures for using one drive are similar. Your owner's guide will give you the specific commands to work with only one drive. Leave the System Utilities Master in Drive 1 and insert your new unused disk into the external drive. Don't press Return just yet. That external drive is named D2. Notice that the cursor on your screen is sitting on top of the period to the left of the name D2. The program normally defaults to Drive 2 because it assumes that most Apple IIIs are used with 2 drives and is most common to format a volume Drive 2. The term default is a very common occurrence in computer work. Essentially, a default value is a value that someone who has written the program feels will be the most common value people running the program will use. In this case, the default value of point D2 is asking you the following message. Do you want to format a volume that is contained in disk drive number 2? In fact, you could change this value to drive number 1 by simply typing point D1 at the place where the cursor is now. That's how you can format a disk using only one drive. However, since you are probably using 2 drives, you can simply accept the default value of drive 2 by pressing Return. Go ahead now and press Return. The program now wants to know what you want the name of the volume to be. If you don't give the program a name in this step, it will automatically give it a name that says blank and a random number from 00 to 99. We strongly recommend that you give each volume a different name once you start using your system. If your Apple III has 1 or more external drives, it is especially important to never load 2 volumes with the same name in 2 drives. If you do, it is possible for the computer to load information onto the wrong volume in the wrong place and to lose data that you might have wanted to save. We'll be examining how to write volume names in the next chapter, so for now, just accept the default name by pressing Return. If your new disk was truly blank to start with, the disk drive will start whirring, the red in-use light will come on, and the program will format the new disk for you. In a few seconds, this message will appear and your disk will be successfully formatted. If you had previously used that disk for something else but were not concerned with saving the contents and wanted to reuse the disk, the program would have shown you this message. You would simply have had to press the letter Y for yes or N for no. If you had selected Y, the formatting would have begun. Here's a helpful tip. Whenever you get a new supply of blank disks, go ahead and format the whole batch. If you don't have any formatted disks on hand, you might find yourself ready to save a lot of work you've done and no place to save it. You must lose the current contents of memory in order to load the formatting program. Therefore, you would have to lose your work to format a disk. Also, remember, formatting is an easy way to prepare older, used disks for reuse. As you work with your computer, you'll find yourself building up quite a collection of disks. Some may contain no data you wish to save and can be reused for new information. From time to time, as you build this collection, you might want to go through and reformat these older, no longer useful volumes. Taking a few minutes to reformat volumes will give you a new supply of ready-to-use disks and save you some money. We'll now make a copy of the System Utilities disk on your new formatted volume. It's important to make backup copies of all of your Apple III master disks. If anything ever happens to that master disk, you will always have a backup available. As a matter of fact, many people use the backup disk as the main disk to run on a day-to-day basis and store their main masters in a safe place. Backing up disks is extremely important. If you make backup copies of your work frequently, you'll always have a copy of your most recent changes or corrections in case anything happens to the main disk or the data on that disk. If you now have this message, you are ready to copy your System Utilities master onto your new formatted disk. Now press the Escape key once to back out to the Volume Handling Commands menu. By either moving the inverse video block to the command you want and pressing Return, or by pressing the letter C, you should now select the command Copy one volume to another. Have your new formatted volume ready. This is the disk we will copy the System Utilities master onto. Be sure the System Utilities master, your source volume, is in Drive 1. At the prompt section of the screen, your computer is now asking you from which device you want to copy a volume. The default value of Drive 2, point D2, was programmed in when this particular program was written. However, since you now have your source volume in Drive 1, you'll have to change the default value to point D1. The point, or period, just gets the Apple's attention and says, "Hey, I'm directing you to a device. Pay attention." D stands for device. In this case, the disk drive, and the number 2 for your second drive in line. To change the default value to Drive 1, type point D1 as we show here. Do it now, then press Return. The program has been written to assume that your destination volume would be in Drive 2. You can accept the default of Drive 2 by simply pressing Return. Press Return now. Now the copy program is asking you to name the new volume. Since you are going to make a backup of your Utilities master volume, you probably want to accept the default name Utilities. The way you name your volume is very important, but we'll get into names in more detail in the next chapter. For now, accept the name Utilities by pressing Return. The copy program has a safety feature to prevent you from inadvertently destroying valuable data. If the volume you insert is not blank, the program will check the name on that volume and ask you if you want to destroy the volume name it finds on that volume. If you have made a mistake and inserted the wrong volume, you can safely back out of the copy program by typing the letter N for no. If you do wish to destroy the data on the destination, as you will do when you copy another volume onto it, you should type the letter Y for yes. Since you do want to copy the entire contents of your source volume onto your destination volume, go ahead and type Y right now. The disk drive will start to make a copy of your system utilities volume. Notice the red in-use lights alternating between drives as the source disk is copied onto the destination disk. When the copy program is finished, this message will appear on your screen. Basically, the copy program works like this. Data is read from the source volume, temporarily stored in RAM, then written onto your destination disk. It does this by taking several blocks of data at a time from the source disk, storing it, then writing it on the destination disk until all of the data has been transferred. In order to transfer all the data on the source disk, this part of the copy program is repeated several times. If you had used only one disk drive, you would have had to change disk 20 or 30 times during the program. You should now have an exact copy of your utilities disk. You'll need to label it. Here are some tips. Don't write directly on the disk. Write on your label. Then attach it to the disk and be sure not to cover the notch. If you must write on the label after it's on the disk, use a felt tip pen and press very lightly. We recommend that you label your new copy properly and use it whenever you need to run anything from the utilities program. Just a word about that notch you didn't cover when you labeled your disk. There may be a time when you want to protect the disk from accidental erasure or to prevent any new information from being written onto that disk. There's a feature on disks that allow you to protect a disk similar to the way you can protect your video cassettes by breaking off the little plastic tabs. Only with disks, you need to add a small piece of paper adhesive tape. Here's how to do it. As you hold a disk in the direction you would insert it into the drive, notice that there is a notch or cutout on the left side of the disk. That cutout can be used to right protect an entire volume and its contents. Stick-on adhesive labels are provided when you buy blank disks. They may be placed over the cutout like this. When they're in place over the cutout, you cannot write any data on or change the contents of that disk. However, if you do decide at a later time to change something on the disk, you can remove the adhesive label and unwrite protect your disk. Some disks come with no cutout. Take a look at your system utilities volume. It was write protected when it was manufactured. You don't want to lose or change the contents of that disk because it is your master. Many commercial software packages come with master disk write protected. If you try to save or write any data onto a write-protected disk, you will get this error message. In this chapter, you learn how to copy your utilities disk. Basically, you use the same procedure to copy any volume you may wish to duplicate. The only difference is that when you are copying another volume, you must have that new source in your source drive before you begin to make the copy. The proper stage in the procedure to take out the utilities master and insert the new source volume is right after you have selected the copy one volume onto another command. Since the copy program itself is already loaded into RAM at that point, you have no further use for the system utilities master. Remember too that the utilities master also has a file copy program if you only want to make a copy of only a specific file. You'll find the file copy program quite useful as you begin to use your computer more. It's located under the file handling commands on the main utilities menu. In this chapter, you have learned how to copy a disk with 2 drives and how to format a disk. These are very common procedures and you'll find that you are using them quite frequently in your future computer operations. In the next chapter, you'll get some more hands-on experience as you learn about the powerful disk filing system in your Apple III. Right about now, you may be feeling a bit overwhelmed with the material presented so far. Don't feel that you must complete this video program in one sitting. You may find, for instance, that taking a break, then getting back to the program is more in keeping with your own learning speed. There is no pressure for you to complete the program in anything but the time you feel most comfortable with.